Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is a talk video, and yesterday the May the 4th update was added to the game with some small but major news, and there's a few things that I want to address specifically. With double drops and now triple drops coming, I want to highlight Cantina energy and how I use it. The update also added the new Conquest feats. I've broken them down already. We'll have a video about my strategy as we always do on these feats, but I want to focus on some key prep this time because of the new squads that are going to be related to these feats. And we have a new faction, Pirates. I want to do some speculation that we used to do around these parts before CG started preempting everything. With the announcement post for the May the 4th celebration, there's like 3 things worth highlighting here. One is the character shards. We're getting 10 each of recent releases. If you are working on the farms of any of these and you are close to being done with them, stop short, let these free shards finish it. That might apply to some of you. The other thing is down here, there is a random giveaway. Don't miss that. Just sign it. You throw in your ally code, you might get some free crystals. But the big thing, of course, is the double and triple drops. With those drops, there's great content out there about how to do your refreshes efficiently. I'm not concerned about that. Kelvin Awesome, I know, has a good one that was shared on the Discord. What I want to emphasize is my approach to the Cantina energy as a late game free-to-play player. Maybe mid to late game this can apply, but if you're in your early or mid game, you can ignore this. What I do with Cantina energy is I skip shard farming during double and triple drop events. Well, triple drops are new. I get the satisfaction with being able to rapidly finish a farm, but Cantina farms are already really fast. Like, they're incredibly fast in relation to other farms in this game, and there is no substitute for signal data. Double drops and now triple drops offer a rare opportunity to make some headway here. And for me, I exclusively farm the flawed signal data because this is the stuff that has the worst drop rate. It takes the longest to farm. It's going to help you the most with high relics, whereas both the incomplete and the fragmented signal data, this drops at a pretty healthy rate, at least relative to the flawed, and you can supplement it elsewhere like with Conquest, where you're getting a good amount from the assault battles. If you watch my roster videos, what you see is I work on multiple projects simultaneously, trying to build up all of that gear, all those Kairos, all the Gear 12 salvage. The only thing that is holding me back is signal data. It's not the relic materials, it's not anything else, just signal data. It takes so long to collect it. These are opportunities to really cut down the amount of time that it takes to farm these things. And when it comes to shards, like Hunter for example, I actually just finished him yesterday, and that was about 14 days because he became available on April 16th, that update. And that's just doing the normal 100 crystal refresh on those Cantina nodes, doing that every day, getting that bonus energy. And if he had been cheaper, like an 8 energy farm, those are 10-day shard farms. If you go a little bit higher to the 16 energy, you're looking at about a month to farm a character. So while it's tempting to finish up shard farms during double drops, it feels satisfying to do so. Because of how fast it is to farm those shards, it's nothing compared to the headway you are going to make on signal data. So you lose a couple days of additional farming, or not even lose, you just set aside a few extra days for shard farming after the event. It's going to more than make up for it with the signal data, which just drops at far worse rates. This time I don't have to make that choice because I'm already done with Hunter and I don't have other farms, but this is what I do when I do have to make those choices, and it happened during the anniversary double drops. And I'm sure it's going to apply to a lot of you. And if you are early game and listening to this, it's more important for early game players or early to mid game players to just expand their roster quickly. And the signal data, there's so much resource demand that signal data isn't really going to gain you as much of a time benefit at that stage of the game. The last update also added some of the Conquest content, specifically the feats, and even though I just told you not to worry about the Hunter shards for the double and triple drops, worry about those Hunter shards. Actually, all of these Fugitive Bad Batch squad shards. Because the Fugitive Bad Batch, they are going to be a critical squad in these Conquests, at least in terms of being efficient as possible, which is important for maximizing energy dedicated to Datacrons. The more energy we spend on feats and clearing sectors, the less we can dedicate to crons, and efficiency matters, and it's why I usually avoid cheeses, which may not be an option this time, because especially these days with how expensive focus datacrons are, we need even more of our energy going towards the datacron resources. We will have my usual Conquest content up in a few days where we're going to go over all of the feats and squads, but I do want to just emphasize this one before the double drops because we can be making progress on a lot of these other character shards, even though I'm telling you to ignore Hunter for that period, because you can still do really well with low star characters. My rule and strategy, and I repeat this all the time, is I take every marquee character up to gear 11 immediately. It helps everywhere, and even at low stars in gear 11 I have always red created every single time. It does cause me to have fewer relics in Grand Arena, but I do fine there too. The last couple of conquests, those have been easy. We haven't had to worry about this. It didn't rely too much on new marquees, but this time we are leaning heavily into the newest releases, and this Fugitive Bad Bat squad, they're going to be needed for sectors 3 through 5 in particular, which means they are going to get depleted on stamina, and we won't have as much time for their stamina to refresh. The old Bad Batch squad we can be using in sectors 1 and 2 and to give this team a little bit of rest, but the later sectors, they are going to be important because they are the squad that's going to allow you to hit multiple feats per sector, which means finishing a sector with fewer attempts, and again dedicating then more of our energy towards datacrons. And that's been really important because the impact of focused datacrons has meant that in the initial playthrough of the Conquest getting those datacrons, we didn't make as much progress, or at least I didn't as a free-to-play player. I was able to work on 2 of the datacrons, focused datacrons that I got, and then I got a handful of level 9 crons, which is far less than what I usually do. Usually I have all of my targets done during the first conquest that they're introduced, and on the second one I'm working on some weaker ones. This time I have a lot of work to do on this new datacron set. So efficient play, at least on a rapid basis, is going to be difficult, which is going to make my daily sector by sector conquest videos that I put out a challenge, but hopefully we get some helpful data discs that are going to offset some of these stamina issues. The biggest information that we got yesterday was this new pirate faction, and in particular our next conquest character in SM33. We will have a kit reveal out on him in a few days. I've already scripted one, but I'm waiting for CG to put out their nice looking post so that we can use that for the recording. But we do have 4 characters as the initial entries into this faction. Now there are some intuitive options for who could be added to this new faction, particularly from Skeleton Crew, where we're looking at Captain Silvo, we got Captain Brutus, Vane, who was also in Mandalorian Season 3, Gorian Shard from Mando Season 3, and Gunter here, Jalil White, Urkel. But to me, this is actually less interesting than what I think this really represents, what this new era is all about. It's about fleet. I always thought this was going to be the most sensible direction to add a new fleet. Otherwise, our only option was to add ships like Red 5 or other missing iconic ships like the B-Wing. Those are really about augmenting existing fleets. We're not creating a new one, and there weren't really any other options, but the pirate faction gives it to us. And that is definitely why CG is making this a priority, because otherwise they're limited to working with what they already have. SM33 as our conquest character, now he has an obvious ship to go along with him, and that is of course the Onyx Cinder from Skeleton Crew. But this is a ship I don't think we're going to see anytime soon, because this ship to me is more likely a conquest ship, because this is going to be very powerful. It is going to have a conquest pilot, and this is a small spoiler for Skeleton Crew if you haven't seen it, so skip ahead or use the timestamps if you don't want to hear this. But one of the things that happens with the Onyx Cinder is it loses its plating and reveals itself to be a different ship, and that sounds like a pretty powerful mechanic that CG can exploit, which says to me more powerful ship, which is going to shift it towards those conquest or even legendary level releases. Our next option, who's a near guarantee, is going to be Gorian Shard, and he's a guarantee because of what he brings along with him. him, which is a capital ship, the Corsair. Now, it may be a while before we actually see him added to the game, and this project, this fleet, is probably going to be built out even maybe next year. Like, usually we get these capital ship projects where they unlock around August. I do not think we are going to be seeing this fleet this August, but we are going to start seeing the characters and ships related to this new fleet unlock for next year. So this is why I want to talk about it, so you guys can prioritize making sure that you are working on this stuff, understanding where we are going, because that's the big point of emphasis here, is always understand where the ball is going. Don't chase where it was. With Skeleton Crew, there are two other definite options as pilots. Of course, Jod Nanawad is going to be an option, Captain Silvo, and I most likely see him as a captain of the pirate frigate that was in some of the later episodes, and I think the earlier episodes as well. This could have multiple pilots. Like, this is where we could see Gunter as an option. The pirate Vane, who we're definitely getting because he's been in multiple shows now, I don't think he's going to be an option for this ship. Instead, I think we're going to see him as a pilot for the pirate snub fighter that we saw in Mando Season 3. It also happens to be the ship that he is sold with under his Lego. And this is something we've actually seen before with Melgus. Melgus, the Fury class interceptor, that was with his Lego as well. But what we really need to talk about are the other initial entries into the pirate faction, because unlike a character like Vane, they don't need to do two separate releases with the character plus the ship. What we can see with the existing characters is they just have to add a ship that makes it a whole lot easier and faster. Maybe they can even do a chase. And with Hondo, he has his ship, the Katuni. But along with Hondo, we also had Sana Staros, and she has her ship in comics, the Volt Cobra, which could be another candidate for CG to easily add and expand on a pirate fleet. Now for Nest, this is a little bit more of a stretch because in Solo she didn't actually have a ship, but there actually was concept art for a ship that CG might refer to in order to do a similar thing as with Hondo or Sana, and that is this ship here, the Buckshot, which was based off of other Star Wars ships, I think called like the Aerie or the Space Shipper, but the Buckshot would be an option for Nest if they wanted to get a little bit more experimental. CG's shown some willingness to explore those things. And there's one last potential pirate I want to talk about. This one I don't think we're going to see anytime soon, but I do think is a long-term option for this faction, and that is Sidone Ithano, because this is a character that we actually have seen in film in Force Awakens as like a side and background character. I don't even think there's any lines, but this is a character that does appear in the comics, does appear in some of the other extended universe literature, and he did have a ship that showed up in Force Awakens, the Maison Martinet. So this is something I think it's going to be a little bit harder to design a kit around, but we do actually have documentation for the ship existing and being used within the film canon. I'm glad we were able to finally do a speculation video again. This used to be a larger part of the channel, but CG started trying to prevent leaks by preemptively announcing every character release so that we didn't have the space and opportunity as a community to think about these things. One of the reasons I hate leaks, because this is some of the fun stuff to do with people you interact with who play the game, is to think about these things. It's fun. But this is something that hopefully we can do a little bit more of. In the meantime, what I really want to be emphasizing is not to just think about characters that can be in this faction, but understand that I think the big picture here is a new fleet, and to take this faction seriously, because that'll just have you do less work in order to get those fleets that I think is the ultimate destination here. The videos right now, we have a methods video on the Scavenger where I really try to succinctly break down what's most important, particularly with bronzium crafting, that I don't think is understood as well as it should be. Otherwise, we have kit breakdowns video. Disguised Clone Trooper is right there, and we will have SM33's kit video out in the coming days, along with some Conquest feat overviews. Thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.